Hi Manasa, welcome to Leadership Nuggets with me. This is an entrepreneur series that I have started basically to understand if somebody is toying with the idea of starting something on their own, apart from doing what they have been doing for so long. How would that work out? What are the leadership challenges that would come along the way? You are a current CEO of DeepForrest AI, and I look forward to having an engaging discussion with you, and my readers and my audience will really love to know how you navigated the situations that came to you posed as a challenge, and what were your learning personally. So welcome again to Leadership Nugget, Mansa.
Yeah.
Floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chitrita. Really looking forward to today's conversation. So, thank you for giving me an opportunity to have this conversation and share candid thoughts and my journey and whatever little things I have learned on this journey to the viewers.
Sure. So let me get you started. So one of the things that, I have been thinking about when I was conceptualizing this part of my leadership nugget around entrepreneurship is one leadership lesson that somebody would have told me, or somebody can still tell me if I am thinking about being an entrepreneur. So what would you give one lesson to any aspiring entrepreneurs, and how would you make it real for them?
Okay, sure. So I think that it's very direct and very simple answer. It would be ability to say no. So why I'll tell you. So when we started Deep Forest, probably in 2024, the AI buzz was at its peak, and there were thousands of ideas actually coming from our customers whom we are talking to, who are trying to explore AI with some POCs, and even our investors who were proposing few ideas, and of course your own self, where you as a tech entrepreneur you want to explore so many things like AI agents and everything out of your curiosity. But what I learned as a part of this journey was that not everything that sounds exciting to us could be meaningful as a product, right? So as a leader, it was very important for me at that stage to identify what is really the noise to which I need to say no to. So as this process, basically my ability to say no was extremely important and crucial. And because of that journey, right? So where I learned to say no to so many things, I could create a space where I could identify where I could say yes to, right? And saying yes when I mean to the exact product which we are building today, which really matters and the users are loving it. So to summarize, I would say one simple lesson is to know where to say no. Yeah.
That's the hardest part, I would say.
Yeah.
You would love to go on every boat and make its own journey, but how do you prioritize? But would you say no at the beginning, or would you say no when it has gained a bit of momentum, like your entrepreneurship would have gained a bit of momentum?
Mm.
Would you advise that, that pointed feedback at that point? How do you prioritize? At what stage of your entrepreneurship journey would you be more comfortable to say no to, and which stage you would think that, oh, maybe this would also work?
Yeah, so this could be early on itself if you know the true purpose of your startup or your entrepreneurial journey. For example, if you're crystal clear on which are your end users whom you want to target, or which is the exact solution you would like to cater to, right? So you would definitely have that clarity itself in the beginning and you would start saying no. But like you said, it is always easy to get digressed and pulled into various threads because of the curiosity or various other reasons. And I think that's where taking help or seeking help from the co-founders, if you have to always, identify, are we really digressing? Do we really need to take this decision right now? So that is definitely, I would say, let's better to nib it at the bud or in the beginning itself so that you don't travel so much and then you realize, okay, I need to probably put a stop on it. Because especially in startup environment, we have limited resources and time and you would want to use it effectively.
True, true. That's a very good point, because it's your own baby, so you only have so much time, so much resources to allocate towards that.
Yeah.
Fair point. So, what leadership qualities you feel becomes more important when you go from, say, a builder to a CEO?
Mm. Yeah, that's a very good question because before I started this, I was pretty much like a builder or a developer, right? So where I was writing code or building something like a feature in a product or solving some problem, right? So, but becoming a CEO is a different ball game altogether, and there's, I think, no education would actually prepare you for that, even though there are many courses. So many things, like for example, you have to wear so many hats which you have never worn before, even like sales, marketing, or even you are the first salesperson and to say actually to the customer. And even right hiring is very important in startups, especially because a wrong hire would actually completely impact the entire harmony in the system. And of course, even in terms of pitching your product to the for fundraising, or in fact the kind of culture you try to create, right? So all this becomes your responsibility, and as a CEO you just have to wear the respective hats. And one thing which I learned also apart from this was that a concept called this cathedral thinking or temple thinking, which I keep talking about at various forums also, which I really love that concept, because when you're building something, it's important to question it. Are we building really for something that matters after 10 years or 20 years, right? So for example, these cathedrals or temples are built for like centuries, where even the people who started it might have not even seen the finished product. But as a CEO, it's very important to have that vision in terms of where this product would be after 10 years, 20 years. Does it really matter to the users, and how would my organization scale up? So that level of zoomed out thinking is very important, and it was very important for me also to pick that up, and it takes a lot of effort and research. And most importantly, to be as a CEO, I mean resilience, right? To not to quit. We encounter so many challenges day to day, and everything, the buck stops at you, so all the problem comes to you. So not quitting whenever you face the worst. I think those are the few things as a CEO I had to adapt, and I'm sure there would be longer lists for people, but these are some things I thought I'll highlight.
So if somebody doesn't have the plethora of experience as you were talking about, do they still have that courage to proceed? What do you advise?
I think it's expecting clarity at the beginning of the journey is probably the wrong thing, because the clarity will unfold over time. So you do something, you get rejected, you learn from that experience that, okay, fine, the customer doesn't want this. And you just adjust your path and you just move on. So the clarity and the road actually gets more visible as you walk. So I think it's just the bold decision to keep walking in that direction is what makes sense.
So basically, the courage of conviction that you probably do not have everything charted out, but you at least have one anchor point which will always keep bringing you back to the same path that you wanted to traverse.
Correct.
Good point. So what does leadership now mean to you than when you first became a founder or first became the CEO of DeepForrest AI?
Yeah. So maybe I think just because of listening so many stories and all of that, I think most of the folks who wanted to start on the entrepreneur journey, they might be thinking, okay, if we identify the right problem, maybe use the right technology which fits that particular cross section of time, and we work very hard, success will automatically follow. Probably that's something theory even I had in my mind and believed that would work, but I understood it's actually a wrong theory. Why? Because whatever product you build, at the end of the day, the users, they don't really care about what technology you use and how you have built it and all of that. So they just care about the value they gain out of the product. So for me, it has become very important as a leader to question, step back and question, actually saying that it's not about the technology or the tech stack or what we're really trying to solve, but is it really adding a value to the user? Does it impact them? Does it make a difference to them in their lives? So moving basically from the typical tech stack to actually the impact it would create. So that was a shift for me basically during this journey.
Fair point. As in, what does it solve? I think when you walk backwards from there, which itself is a huge mindset shift from a builder to a CEO. I think I can go back to your story as you were mentioning that you were a builder, then now you are a founder and a CEO. The whole mindset shift, as you mentioned, actually would have helped you go through every milestones of your company, correct? I would presume, right?
Yeah.
So Manasa, when you became a founder and you started this exciting journey of entrepreneurship, you probably would have felt that sometimes things are in my control, and most of the time maybe things are completely out of control. Things might be falling apart. Your plan versus actual is looking quite wonky. Can you share for my audience any of those difficult moments when you were planning this, you started up DeepForrest AI? How did you navigate in that situation?
Yeah, sure. So quick explanation about DeepForrest AI's focus area. I'll just spend a couple of minutes on that. So that'll help understand the context. So DeepForest predominantly focused on AI solutions for pharma and life sciences. And that too within pharma and life sciences, we originally started focusing on quality, compliance, and regulatory affairs. So these are a few different departments within a pharmaceutical organization. So now when we started it, we particularly focused on one problem related to root cause cause analysis, which is a typical challenge across multiple pharma organizations where they spend huge amount of time trying to identify it. So, and there are not many tools in the market. So, why I'm explaining you this particular problem is we've built something almost spending 5 to 6 months of efforts on a particular version of this product, and we believed it has come out well. But due to our efforts in terms of interacting with various customers, we felt that we need to probably shut down this product, and we have spent almost 5 months of time and efforts on and move to a different focus area altogether, that is regulatory affairs. So this was not an easy decision because we've spent so much of investment, not just resources wise, in terms of time, energy, and we believed that would work. So, but I think now thinking about it almost 9 months down the line, where we took that decision to completely shift our gears to a different product that is in regulatory affairs, I'm happy we have taken that decision because the product which we are building right now is, like I talked about, it's really going to make a huge impact in the users, and we are seeing that already. And if we had not taken that decision 9 months ago, probably still stuck to something which was not working out, probably we wouldn't have seen this success today. So it's important to stop, maybe hit that reset button or reboot button and refocus on things which really matter. I think that is one of our bravest decisions, or I would say pivoting, which we have done.
And maybe Manasa, I'm just trying to imagine or trying to put myself in your shoes in a situation where you would have almost 70% into the development cycle. You're very close to something which you can, go to the market with. How do you get the courage to pivot, especially when, you don't have a playbook to turn towards? It's probably your instinct or some data insights that you would have got. So how do you, as a CEO, get that courage of conviction that, what, this is probably a moment where I need to look into another direction for this product and give it a whole new facelift, so to say? So
Yeah.
how do you get that?
I think, like you said, we didn't complete the 100% of the actual envisioned product, but we have developed the MVP or the minimum viable product, right? I would call it more of a prototype or something, right? Even before the prototype. When we took that to the customers, there was basically so much of gap in terms of what the customers were expecting, and felt probably the Indian market, especially, which is one of our primary targets, was probably not ready for something at this moment. And that kind of helped us to quickly pivot, because if we had spent the whole time building that what we originally envisioned, so it would have taken maybe 1 year completely, and maybe our effort, I don't know if they would have been fruitful or not, but because we have not completed that cycle, so I can't comment on that. But this prototyping concept, or building the initial prototype and getting a validation, that really helped.
Fantastic. And that gives me to my next question, which is exactly what I was trying to understand. As a startup, you hit an uncertainty. You spoke about one type of uncertainty towards a product building mindset. What about the funding pressure that you would have? Because everything would be, time and resource and limited scope and application. You would have product pivots, as you talked about. You might have challenges as well, during your course of product building.
Yeah.
So how does a CEO stay calm? And while the team looks at you, for example, to give that direction to them, and how do you keep that, the smooth operation mindset on, even when you know that there is a ton of turmoil that's happening, especially with you, as in you as a CEO, right?
I think what I realized over time is that my emotional state per se probably spreads very quickly, positive or negative, across the team. So if I panic, that actually has its own ripple effect in the organization or to somebody who reports to me. And when I stay calm, it's the same. So this was one learning. I take it with me every day, that I need to stay basically balanced and calm, so that whatever pressure, whether it's related to the funding or even the customers, I try to keep that with myself, so that it doesn't percolate and have those ripple effects, because my team would be obviously having not much of a visibility in terms of all of this, and it's better they don't take that pressure onto them, because they're focusing on building the product, enhancing it, and so on. So of course I do have my co-founders with whom I have these conversations, because it's definitely emotionally challenging always to go through this kind of a tough situations at times, and that's where talking to to your co-founders and maybe a few mentors that really help. And some of the things, like I keep reading some leadership books and also about how other CEOs are coping up. I like this interesting analogy actually. So especially this race car drivers, right? They go at a very high speed and even in curved roads and so on. So what they're usually taught by their coaches is that you focus only on the road, not on the wall. Because if they focus on the wall at such a high speed, they might actually dive directly into it. And instead, that's where they need to focus on the road. So same thing holds good for a startup as well. We keep hitting so many road blockers. So if I keep focusing only on them and not on my road, obviously it would have its own, like I said, the emotional turmoils which actually get spread across my team. So I ensure that I consciously focus on the road and not on the walls.
Fantastic. And it's a very simple analogy, right?
Yeah.
You focus on the road
Yeah.
and the roadblocks will automatically kind of give away when you're moving towards a certain direction. So can you elaborate a little bit on the mindset shift? I think for the audience, they would be really willing to understand what are the key mindset shift that maybe somebody has to cultivate, because it's all a muscle memory. You need to cultivate that within yourself. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
So to kind of transition from, say, a builder to a founder to a creator. So can you elaborate a little bit more on one or two mindset shift that you had to kind of cultivate within yourself to make this journey for yourself?
Yeah, I think some of it which we've already spoken, but just adding one more is the attitude to zoom out. So this probably I never practiced personally myself. So the ability to zoom out from that situation and understand where this actually lies within the bigger objective or goal as an organization which we are heading towards. So basically, in terms of, again, summarizing the previous point, it's not just always about the speed, basically the velocity, the direction which you're heading towards. So that is very, very important when you're a product organization and building. And again, to summarize, additionally, the ability to say no, right? Very, very important. Though I keep stressing on that point, but it's very important to know when to say no. And I think these are something which are initially picked up as entrepreneurs. I'm sure they would be heading in the right journey.
Fantastic. And especially for you when you're in the AI field and it's fast, as in fast would be an understatement at the moment. Every 2 weeks, we are hearing major upgrades, major changes in the field.
Yeah.
So for you in this AI landscape where everything is evolving at this speed, how do you keep your team motivated? How do you keep your team together? Because maybe something that you're building might be looking very different when you're at the GTM stage,
Yeah.
go to market stage, right?
Yeah. So that's where actually point of vision, I would connect it again. So because zooming out and questioning, does it really matter within the next 5 years, 10 years? As a CEO, laying the direction is very crucial. But for that, a lot of research, a lot of conversations with the industry leaders, and even, for example, in our case, the regulatory authorities who are actually setting up the guidelines. What is FDA's journey in the next 10 years? Because if I'm building a product which will become redundant after 3-4 years, because FDA itself is building something, then it doesn't make sense. So doing a thorough research as a leader and setting the right direction in my vision becomes very crucial, right? So that these changes don't really impact the product. Then coming to the actual advances, we actually follow one method. Obviously, there's a agile methodology of developing the product. We have sprints, etc. But every sprint, end of the sprint, we have a practice where we evaluate our own product in terms of, are we seeing any difference in terms of the existing developments within the AI? If it's simply solved with a prompt, maybe we are seeing AI agents per se, and we have an agentic core system that is developed in the backend. So do we need to improvise it, or is there a chance that whatever we are doing now can be made better with existing LLMs? Because this testing, we need to do it thoroughly, because every day new parameters, improved LLMs are coming out, and everybody's releasing their own better performing large language models. So this level of detailed testing has to be done, and we separately allocate some time for that. So to ensure that our product is basically not relevant in the current scenario, but it's actually ahead of its time and fits it into the future. So that's a conscious effort we make.
Perfect. And because my audience has been very supportive for me to kind of go through this journey. I would throw a bonus question to you from them on behalf of them also. So if, for example, you are a person who is thinking about being an entrepreneur and you are having great ideas, how would you, Mansa, kind of give maybe 3 or 4 steps, the first 3 or 4 steps to them so that they can get a bit of clarity to start? Because sometimes ideas come to you, but the point of when the rubber has to meet the road, that's when things fall apart, or you just don't start because you don't know how to start, right? So
Yeah.
what would you advise, maybe top or rather 4 things that a person is who is thinking about being an entrepreneur needs to do at that point, and then it can lead him or her into the entrepreneurship journey?
Okay, sure. Maybe I'll just share a funny quote also, which is very important as well. So I read it somewhere that if you don't like choosing between what's horrible and terrible, don't become a CEO. But actually, that kind of summarizes a lot of your days as a CEO. So you just need to be ready in a way to, if you're on starting your journey as an entrepreneur, just be ready for worst days, and you should be okay with that. That's an important attitude which you need to pick up. And second thing is basically a lot of times there is no perfect option. You might have multiple information as part of your research for your idea, right? So there might be multiple decisions that are sitting in front of you, but there's no perfect option for you. But in the time, you just have to simply choose the best possible option with the information that you have. And you should not regret it later as well, because probably that's the best choice you have made at that point of time. And most important thing is having the courage to make the next decision and keep moving forward, irrespective of what decision you've taken before. So that's also very important, especially because when I talked about how we have pivoted with various products, I'm sure this is the story, very common story of many startups. So such pivoting or closing doors on some products or some decisions which didn't work out for you, that keeps happening as part of your journey. So, but just having the courage to move ahead irrespective of that decisions you have made. So I think that's very important. Yeah. So I think that I would summarize as few important things to pick up. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think it was a great conversation, Mansa. I have great nuggets that you have shared so willingly and so openly for my audience. I think having the capability of saying no, I think that's a fantastic takeaway. Even in our personal life, whether it's an entrepreneurial journey or even a leadership journey, I think that's quite applicable. Even the fact that the courage of pivoting when you feel that it might not lead to the impact that you desire for your customer is a fantastic takeaway as well. And the last one I would say that really touched me was, sometimes the quote that you mentioned, that the courage to choose between horrible and terrible.
Yeah.
If you're not ready for it, maybe give yourself that time or the mental aptitude to come to that stage where you can safely go into the CEO zone, because I think that would be almost called upon every day for every bit of the organization.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much for spending time on Leadership Nugget. It was fantastic having you. I would look forward to have you again in my podcast, and I wish you all the best for everything that you do with your DeepForrest AI.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Yeah. I truly loved having this conversation, and yeah, looking forward to more. Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.
Bye bye.